Hello and welcome. My name is Ajax, and this is my first attempt at Yu-Gi-Oh! Content creation. My favorite summoning mechanic is pendulum summoning, and I love pendulum as a mechanic. I love being part of the pendulum community. We're the best community out there. So I hope you guys enjoy my video, and let's get right into the deck.
Ladies and gentlemen!
Hello and welcome to my Endymion Magician Odd Eyes deck profile with Revolution Dragon. I'm really excited to put forward this deck list. No one really has put forward one except for Triff yet, and he hasn't put forward his list yet, so I wanted to put forward a list that I think is pretty good. It's similar in a lot of regards because we play a lot of the same, good generic Pendulum and Dragon cards, so I wanted to put forward this list for anyone who looking to proxy the deck or get ready to test it when it comes out in about a week. So here's my list. So first we are going to talk about the spell counter package. So we play Abductor at 3. This card is insane. It's one of the best cards in the deck. It can search literally anything. Both effects are relevant, so if you open 2, it's fine. You can just pull it instead of your blue boy. Card's really good. Searches anything. Endymion, Mighty Master. Card's crazy. It's your spell negates. I would really like to run this at 1. Because we play Desires, it could be banished. Its pendulum effect isn't that relevant anymore because spell counters are a much smaller part of the deck. It's mostly his monster effect, so I wish I could play 1 Reflection, 1 Mighty Master, but the spell negate is super important. It comes up a lot, obviously, and I really don't want to banish 1 just because I wanted to play Reflection for some cute decks. Lastly, we play a Servant and the Jackal to go with it. This card's crazy. You can bring out either your 6 or your 7. Your 7 for your Xyz plays, and then your negate on your opponent's turn when you special it with Selene, and then this to stop Nibiru. Both effects are relevant depending on your opponent. You can either call their bluff, or if you know it's post-side and they're going to have multiple Nibirus, you just probably should always make Servant's insane. That's it for your spell pattern package. It's much smaller than most times because we're playing other packages. So moving on to the Magicians. So the Magicians are insane, not only for their pendulum effects, but their monster effects too. And they can help us make our Time Star, which is going to be really relevant with Time Pendulum Graph. Each one that we play in here is relevant for a specific reason, and they all do something. So also their levels as well. So for our level 4s, we play Purple Poison, play Black Fang, play Celestial, and we play Harmonizing. So Harmonizing is our fixer, so we can literally special whichever one we want out. We got one more Pendulum as deck, Pendulum Magician. Celestial is your +1 and your protection for Vortex. If you decide to Pendulum Summon this, it's pretty versatile. You get the +1. If you put it in scale as your high scale, it's great to protect your Vortex. This is your high scale that destroys Winda, and this is your low scale that has a pretty cool monster effect. So all of them are pretty relevant. You play these mostly for their numbers and scales and their level synergy, so you can do either. And then you play this one because it can do literally everything you want in your deck. So cards are crazy. And then you play the 1 Dragon Pit. This card's great, not only because it's a level 7 to go into your Absolute Vortex plays, but also because its pendulum effects are actually pretty relevant. You get to pitch one to pop a face-up card in the field, and you think, that's not that good. Dude, what are we playing, like Unke Yu-Gi-Oh? But, I mean, to be honest, with trap decks becoming more relevant right now because of Numeron, because Numeron beats like pretty much everything in the meta right now, right? If they go first, they just win the duel. It's an FTK. But a lot of decks that play traps are just like, well, I don't care because I'm not activating any of my cards yet. I'm just going to set a bunch of cards and not care that you're playing Zexal. So trap decks are going to become a lot more relevant. So not only is this great for its level, but its effect is really relevant. And since it's searchable, yeah, it's just a good card. So that's it for our Magician package. Next, the Odd Eyes package. We play 3 Revolution, which is obviously proxied until it comes out next week. 1 Persona, and 1 Arc Pendulum. So why we play these? So this card says search Dark Worm, and as well, it can also search our lower high scale. So what's cool about this deck is, and Endymion had a really hard time finding its low scales because there aren't really that many good low scales in Endymion. This deck has so many ways to search its low scales between Revolution searching Dark Worm getting Donut, or searching, if you already have the Dark Worm or Donut in your hand, you can search another low scale if you want to do something else. So these cards are really cool. They're really versatile. If you wanted to, you could cut this because you have so many good ways to search your low scales on the deck that you really could cut this card, but I mean, it's good. So we play it. After more testing, I'll probably decide whether I'm going to cut it or not. Next, we play the best card in the deck. We play Dark Worm, and it's Donut Friend. So this card is your way that you're going to be making LP into Sloth. So this card's insane, not only because it searches low scale, but because of combo play. you're gonna draw into this pretty much every game or search it because of Revolution Dragon and the amount of draw cards we play. So pretty much always wait to use Pendulum Call until you get this in your hand, because you should be able to get it almost every game. Lastly, our last Pendulum card is Sloth. We play Sloth as a Floodgate. It's great to special off LP. I mean, the card's really good. If you do summon it out and you actually get it to stick, you're probably winning the duel. I can't remember a time outside of playing against uh, Mech Knights that I lost because they play Kaijus. I don't know. The card's just insane. Um, Spellbooks, we play the engine. Decks these days, really, their normal summon is an engine itself, away from the deck to help support it. So you're either playing Alistair, you're playing the Lib package with Gearsu, or Gearsu to make Lib, I should say, the Link monster. So like your normal summon is really important. Obviously, Alistair the Invoker is a huge card in this meta these days. So yeah, your normal summon's here. It's not really that important. It just says draw on it. That's why we play it. One Magician Souls. This is honestly really cuttable. Its secondary effect really doesn't come up as much as you would think for the amount of spell cards we play, but it's here. It's a good card, obviously. But yeah, if you wanted to find a replacement, you could definitely play Foolish. Like I'm not saying this to flex. Like I do own 3 of this card, and I'm playing it at 1 for like a reason. Like you really don't need 3, and if you don't want to spend the money on this card, you could easily play Dragon Shrine. You can send your Arc Pendulum, and since it's in normal, you can also send the Dark Worm. Then you can res the Arc Pendulum. So this card's good, but there's definitely are replacements. Don't feel like crazy about buying this card. Really don't need it. So since we have Pendulum cards, we play the green cards. So here's our Spell Power Mastery. This searches obviously all our Endymion cards that are important. Card of Greed. Remember, like, we do play a lot of 3-ofs, and a lot of these are obviously once per turn outside of lures. So, like, Magician Souls is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say cut the card. I'm just saying, like, if you have access to funds, get it, but don't freak out about it. Play a lure. It's not once per turn to get to draw. You play a lot of darks. And then Pendulum Call. This card's insane. Like, literally insane. Oh my god, I can't believe this card's like $1. You get to pitch a card, which is going to be your Dark Worm, 99% of the time, and you get to search for 2 Magicians. Like, it's crazy. And then not only that, it's going to protect your Magicians in scale from getting popped, or just any card in scale. So your Time Pendulum Graph is going to be online the second you activate this card for your next turn, because this effect lingers. It's insane, it's crazy, I love it. Duelist Alliance, this not only searches your Pendulum Call, but it's going to search this trap card. So, the card's really good. Again, this is another once per turn, so like if you do have access to Magician Souls and you draw extras, you can send it. Remember, you always do need discard fodder for Pendulum Call. So like, if you don't want to send your Dark Worm because like you don't have another normal summon target, you always normal your Dark Worm and send a card with Pendulum Call. So like that's what I was saying. Like it's not super relevant to always have Magician Souls, but yeah, these cards are all crazy. You really need to run them at 3. You need to see them in your play Upstart because we play the Spell Power or the Spell Power Mastery and the Spell Counter package. Sometimes you really don't actually. I know this is a lot of spell cards, but sometimes you really don't get to 3 spell cards for your servant or your abductor, which I know sounds surprising, but it is possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible. But like just throwing in an extra one's nice. Don't put in Into the Void in this deck. You really do want your hand for your follow-up play, so I don't think Into the Void's worth it because we don't go that heavy into spell counters. And then obviously our spellbook package, and then Time Pendulum Graph. This card is Ningirsu. It's crazy. I really love this card. I wish I could play it more, but unfortunately, I don't think you can right now. If we ever played a Pure Magician, I definitely think you'd play more of this. You'd probably play 2 or 3, but for now, we only play 1. You really can't see it in multiples because the way pendulums work right now is you really do need most of your hand to combo. So if you're drawing 2 cards that are searchable, you're not having a good time. That is if you can't activate them. So the theory behind extra decks and pendulums is definitely the levels and the arrows, because they're like the most important thing. Since we are the ugly stepchild for Konami, they didn't want us to, which I think is fair. Like we have to have our arrows for Master Roll 5, so you always have to keep in mind your arrows when you're building your extra decks. So having like extra Link monsters for your follow-up plays is really important because the duel is always more than 1 turn, and if you don't have arrows, you don't get to play the game. So first off, we'll just get LP out of the way. This is your combo piece. It's going to be gone after your first turn, or you're never going to end up making it because you went second. So, well, that's not true. Sometimes you can break their board and on a Sloth, and that's enough to win the game. But yeah, it's LP. It makes your Sloth. So for your 2s, play Daybreaker, IP, Cross Sheep, Crowley. So here's the theory behind this. So these 2 you're almost always going to go through on your first turn. Sometimes you're not going to make this, but you want to make it just to get it out of the way because it's your worst two, so you might as well get it out of your extra deck instead of these two. So most of the time you're going to make these two on your opening play, and then these are your follow-up plays, or you even can make all three of these on your first play. So think about it this way. You need your arrows to special summon. Or I should say pendulum summon, not special summon. So like it's really, really important you have a fourth target. So even though this card isn't that insane, and only really insane going second, it's important to have it in your deck because you really need a fourth one. Honestly, you could even have a fifth Link 2, and I think that would be acceptable. Because like your Link 2s are so important, and they all need to have these two down arrows because you need to be able to make Celine and then an Access Go Talker with one card. And that's like your OTK combo. So like you always need the two down arrows for Pendulum Summon. Um, Next we play the threes. We play 3 Celine and we play 1 Nightmare Unicorn. Since we don't play Into the Void and we end on extra cards usually, it's pretty cool because we get to actually play this card consistently and actually make it. It's a great card. If you can make only this card in Time Pendulum Graph, it's insane because even though that's not a whole lot of negates, you get a shuffle, you get a pop, and you get a send. So that's 3 interruptions on your opponent's turn. You can make that every game, I promise. You don't normally make it because you don't need to, because you can normally end on like good negates anyways, but that is always an option if you brick. Celine, here's your non-hard once per turn, your soft once per turn insane card. This card's crazy. It makes a lot of your combos. It's how you make Access Go Talker with ease. Its arrows are crazy. Everything about this card's insane. Most people don't know it also has another effect where if you have a card with a spell counter, you can't actually attack this card. So you don't play it in this deck because you don't play the field spell, and you honestly you cut the field spell a while ago from Pure Endymion, but most people don't know the other effects. So if your Money Master has a spell counter on it, like they can't swing into this. So it's kind of like random effect that most people don't know about, but it exists. Onto our fours, we play Apo, Axis, Saryuja. This is pretty generic. Pretty much every deck plays these at this point. Maybe not Saryuja, but these two are pretty generic. Obviously, Apo, if you banish your Jackal and you need monster negates, like this is your card in to go to. This is your OTK. You play a lot of different attributes in your deck for your Link monsters, so it's really easy to pop all their cards on the field. And then Saryuja, you don't really use the draw effect like this. Like Pure Endymion uses this card to like draw your scales if you're missing any, because they play like infinite extenders. But this card's a lot different in this deck. Most of the time, if you're ever making this, it's not only just a special summon a Sloth out of your hand. So like if you bricked. So honestly, this card's pretty cuttable. You could play like a generic rank 4 like Abyss Dweller instead, if you wanted more plays like that. But yeah, it's there. And then lastly, our last 3 cards, so we play Time Star. This card is crazy. If you somehow you don't make Pendulum Call, you can make this to protect your scales with Time Pendulum Graph. Card's really good. You just send. Another interesting thing about this card is with Harmo, you always banish the cards that you special, right? But if you make this instead with those materials, you're not going to banish the card because obviously you're sending the card to the graveyard for its effect as material, so it's not going to get banished. So sometimes if you like, let's say you use Servant, right? And now you don't have a follow-up play because you don't have a low scale, you can use Harmonizing to special out your Purple Poison, or if you need a high scale, you can special out a high scale. Attach it to Time Star, detach to search from your graveyard or deck a Pendulum, Dark Pendulum monster, and then you can just grab that card that you detached that's your low scale for next turn. So this card's great at setting up your follow-up plays. Really underrated card, really underutilized. I love it. And then lastly, we play Odd Eyes Absolute and Odd Eyes Vortex. Cards are crazy. You can make this twice in this deck because of Revolution now. Its attack negating effect actually does come up. Going second, since we do play Odd Eyes cards, you can Xyz with this level 7. If you like, let's say you needed to have this card in your hand, you had like a Revolution, you already had Dark Worm and Pencall or something, you could search this card, you made Absolute, and you're going second, and you have like, I don't know, like you have a Dark Worm on the field with 1500 attack that's doing nothing, right? You literally attack with a Dark Worm, you negate it, detach this, and then this effect triggers to special this, and now you have 2 monsters that are attacking that are big. This guy's a big beater, he's 2700. And then he's also extra material for your main phase 2 play when you're going to set up your negates after you break the board. So this effect does come up. It's not like super relevant, but it's there and it definitely does happen. Obviously Vortex is Vortex. This card is mandatory in the deck. It's crazy. It's what you special summon off of Absolute Dragon. That's the main deck. Moving on to the side. There is one card in here that I would like to be in here that's not in here yet, and I'll tell you that when we get to it. So first off, we play 3 Denko Sekka. This card is going to be really good into back row. So inside deck theory. Numeron is crazy right now. We know that. We know a lot of people are going to be countering it by playing backer decks because Zexal says you can't activate cards. So what are you going to do? You're just going to set cards and pass because that's just better, right? You're going to see all these Unga forehead flip decks where they just play Floodgates or whatever. So you literally just go to main focus one, normal summon Deka, Neko Seka, and you're just like, well, what are you going to do? You have 5-set back row, sir. So card's crazy, really good. 3DD Crow, this is not going to be in here. This is going to be Ogre. So I decided this a little while ago is that even though I hate playing hand traps and pendulums, it's not as necessary as you would think in this deck because we're not playing Endymion. Like we don't need our whole hand to combo. Like worst case scenario, we set up a time pendulum graph and our time star, and we're gonna pop and then send a card on our opponent's turn, and we're gonna foolish from our deck. So like, do we need all 5 cards in our hand to play? Probably not. So what are we going to do? We're going to play like 1 or 2 hand traps. So I think this is going to be Ogre. That way we can play against Numeron going second. So yep, that's the idea behind that. And then 1 Pankratops. This is good into everything. That rounds up the monsters on our extra. Next we play Adamancipator Hate. Really what this is. I guess this is technically Synchro Eldritch Hate, but they're going to be playing Numeron anyway. The card doesn't really do anything to Zexal now. But yeah, this is like essentially Emancipator Hate. And then we play 1 Mind Control. This is great into rogue decks. It's a spell counter. It's crazy. It's a spell card, obviously, so love it. So it rounds up for the spell cards. And then traps evenly and repeat. So this is great. So you normal Deca, they Judgment, and you're like, no. If you draw this, you're essentially Exodiating. You're insane at drawing cards. I wish I could draw this card. I literally never get to draw this card, and it's so sad. So, evenly matched. This card's obviously really good into any set 5 deck, and I think there's going to be a lot of set 5 decks this format like I was talking about earlier, so I think this card is like mandatory to play right now at 3 in your side deck. The only thing is, if you're playing Pendulum and you side deck evenly, please do not activate your scales when you side into this card. Like, I know that sounds like really like, dude, obviously you wouldn't activate your scales, but dude, if you see Servant and you see Desires in your hand as a Pendulum player, your immediate thing is, dude, oh my god, my hand's Exodia, I can totally win this game, right? So you activate your Servant, you pot Desires, and then you draw 2 evenlies. So please, draw cards, draw into evenly, battle phase, evenly, main phase 2, set up your board, they lose. That's how you play. Do not use draw cards when you play evenly in deck. Well, you use draw cards, obviously, but don't use them after you scale stuff. That's it for the deck profile. Now we can go into some replays where I can show you how to play this deck properly. Alright, so here's the first duel. We were playing against Dinos, and he bricked really hard. He hit 3 OVs. So very bad for him. So what do we do first? Well, we have access to Servant, so let's activate that. Most important card in our deck is probably Pen Call, so it's no big deal if Servant gets ashed. Desires, draw that. Now, here's the thing. We banished all 3 Pen Call. So normally you'd say, holy shit, what do you do? But it's fine. We have Duelist Alliance in hand. We can easily search Time Pendulum Graph. That's what matters. So now, as Trip would say, the new game plan is now to get Time Pendulum Graph and get Time Star Magician on the field. So what do we know? Servant is going to resolve, assuming they have no more hand traps. Dark Worm is going to search a level 7. So now we have 2 7s, so we can make Absolute. And this is going to be our scale. So Harmo needs to summon a level 4. And it needs to be a low scale too, because this is going to leave the scale. So keep that in mind. So our only option here is Purple Poison. So this is how far you need to think ahead in your plays before you do anything. So we search Time Pendulum Graph. 2. And then the third counter is going to go on Servant. Now, because I don't have... Well, okay. Here's the better play I should have made. I could search the donut, get level the 0, and then I can Harmo, and then make 7. But is that really the better play? It's not, and the reason why it's not the better play is because I can't make Time Star, and Time Star is necessary for Time Pendulum Graph because I'm not under Pen Call. So my original play is the right one. So I grab Donut, and I Pendulum Summon. Activate Harmless Effect, get Purple Poison. This is going to be my low skill for next turn. Keep that in mind. So now I make Absolute. So now if he Nibiru's me, worst case scenario, I have access to Vortex next turn and a Jackal. That's pretty good. Not bad. I make Cross Sheet because it's the most useless one. I don't have a Spellcaster that's under level 4, and I don't think I'm ever going to with the hand I got. So I'm just going to get Cross Sheet out of the way because it's the worst generic Link 2 because it's going to go soon. It's going to go by soon. So here, I activate Servant. I get Jackal out of my deck. I need monster negates. That's like what I'm most scared of right now. I have an Omni negate. I don't have any monster negates. Well, it's obviously an Omni negate, but I want an extra monster negate. So I get Jackal out of my deck. And I can easily bring this back because this is going to become a Slain. So I used Time Star Magician effect. I detached the purple poison. Remember, it didn't get banished because it's Xyz material. So it comes back to my hand because it was the one I chose. So now I have a low scale for next turn. So I've set myself up. Vortex is protected by Celestial. I have a Pop Ascend. I have a Negate Destroy. I'm going to have a Monster effect or a Spell Negate effect, and Celine brings back Mighty Master. And obviously I have the Omni Negate. So this is probably like the most broken board you can end on. Like the only thing more insane would be if somehow you manage to get another Mighty Master on the field, which would require me to have drawn Abductor or Magician's. Obi's effect happens. This game's over. He's just gonna get negated. He's got nothing left. He's gonna Lightning Storm. Which, by the way, it's funny because Lightning Storm doesn't even do that much to my board because I'm still gonna have negates on the field. That's just gonna negate it. He's gonna scoop. He's got nothing. And now into two. Playing the Dragma. So future meta deck. Search our Servant. Our start. We're gonna be able to resolve Servant since we have Pen Call and Darkworm in our hand. Remember, it's literally every game you get Pen Call Darkworm. Literally every single game. Activate Darkworm. Search the Donut. Now we have Servant effect. Now he's gonna Ogre the Servant. This is fine. We have another low scale in hand. Already have 2 level 7s in our hand, and we have Harmo to bring out any level 4. And if he Ogres the Servant, keep in mind, Servant only can be special summoned once per turn. If she activates her effect, she's not special summoning her. So if she goes to the extra, she can be pendulum summoned because it's 0 scale. The thing that sucks about Abductor is Abductor's a 3 scale. So in this scenario, we were very happy that we got Donut in hand. Pendulum summon these. Armor effect. Have a low scale just in case. And here's why I make Absolute. And I think to myself, we have no monster effects and we're gonna have one monster negates and we're gonna have one Omni negate. This is bad. This is a scenario where Appaloosa is mandatory. So because we didn't draw any of our negates or able to search any negates, Appaloosa becomes our negate. So we make a 4 material Appaloosa, we get Vortex out. Now hold on. Back a step. So I summon Vortex here, just in case. I didn't want to summon it here because we're playing around Relinquished Anima just in case. And then also, this is important, that the Darkworm has this space unlocked and then there's nothing here. Because this is where our LP's going to go. This space also needs to be free. This is our downward arrow. This is how we're going to get LP's effect. Remember, you can't use your Darkworm for the Appaloosa because it needs to be there for your LP. It's your level 4 dragon. When we activate LP's effect, we get Sloth out of the deck. And here's the point where it's just going to be incredibly difficult for him to do. Because now he's just stuck. He's stuck in a terrible fucking situation. Now all I have to do is be really careful of what I negate. So he activates Meltdown first. I don't negate it. The reason why I don't negate it is because Alistair is irrelevant. He can normal Alistair, he can search his invocation, I don't care. I need to make sure that my negates are not being baited out because Alistair can't do anything to this deck. Even if he has 2 Alistairs in hand, he still can't run over Sloth. So this was my mistake. I negated this with Vortex because I remembered that they send an Elder Entity card that pops a card in their field if it gets sent to the graveyard. So I was like, oh, I don't want a card to get popped on my field. I could have just Appaloosa negated it. I needed to save my spell negate, so this was definitely a mistake. But it just so happens he wasn't able to play through my hand anyway. He normals, he searches invocation. I don't negate with Appaloosa because if I negate with Appaloosa and he has another Alistair in hand, he could do his effect, try to run over the Appaloosa. So I was just like, it's just not worth it. He can get his invocation. Here's why Pendulum's on the Darkworm. He has no cards on his field. There's nothing he can do. And he surrenders. Alright, and moving on to play number 3. This is kind of a meme one. We play against Toons. So bringing them up to speed. You go through his Toon combo, add Toon Kingdom, activate Toon Kingdom. Toon Mass Sorcerer. This deck is terrible. This deck is absolute dog shit. So I see a shit ton of spell cards on my hand and Abductor and Mighty Master. My instant feeling is I don't need to activate Magician Souls because I already have a Mighty Master in hand. So if I Desires Banish one, it's fine. And I might actually be able to use Mighty Master's effect here, pop his Toon Kingdom. That was what was going through my mind. Close Alliance. It's going to activate as many spell cards as I can. And I draw into secrets, which is insane. I'm going to normal summon the blue boy. I'll grab another spell out of my deck. And spell counters, spell counters, spell counters. It almost looks like we're playing pure Endymion right now. We draw into Revolution Dragon. Now here's the issue with Magician Souls in the deck. Because I special summoned Magician Souls, I can Revolution Dragon search Darkworm, but if I pen call the Darkworm, it doesn't matter because now I have a monster on my field and I can't special the Darkworm out of my deck. Keep that in mind. Grab Darkworm, Pendulum Call. That's why I Pendulum Call away the Duelist Alliance, because the Darkworm needs to resolve from my hand. And we like pluses. So what do we do here? We do this thing. Now we target both of these. Apparently Toon Kingdom can banish to protect itself if something else is targeted. I don't know how this works. If someone can explain it, I'd be more than happy to read it. Because all I see is banish for monsters. So all I know is that I need to pop it out of the field. So my next idea is, okay, I need to go for Daybreaker. So I link off for Daybreaker. Daybreaker gains counters. I Pendulum Summon. All I need is one Spellcaster to get to his zone for him to gain his counters. So that's why I special summon the Money Master here. He gains a counter. He now has 2 counters for his effect. He removes. He's going to pop the Toon Kingdom. And then this leaves the field. And now it's just game. Celine's going to special back the Magician Souls or Blue Boy. And then it's going to make Access Code Talker. And that's already game on field. Access Code Talker is, I would say, mandatory in this deck. Now, I make the Absolute here for the because I can negate my own Darkworm's attack to special summon the Odd Eyes from under it, and then I can link it off next turn and not link it off, but I can make the Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon. I just wanted to do the, but he got really mad, I guess, and left the game. But yeah, Access Code Talker is absolutely mandatory in this deck, 100% insane. So, those are the replays. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you for sticking this long. If you're watching until the end of the video, thanks. Bye.